All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we have another guest with us for our professional interview series. We've got Maggy Kriebel. How you doing, Maggie?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Real quick, why don't you tell everybody where you're at and what your title is and what you do, real quick.
Sure. So my name's Maggy Kriebel, and I'm the executive director of the Corbin Tourism and Convention Commission. So I run the day-to-day operations of the Tourism Welcome Center, and my main mission in my profession is to promote Corbin as a vacation destination.
And Corbin is located on I-75, about halfway between Lexington and Knoxville. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's correct. We're 25 miles to the north of the Tennessee state line.
Okay. And just before we get in it, do you get a lot of folks coming up from the Tennessee area into the Kentucky there?
Some
Some.
our main draw is from the north.
Okay.
So Cincinnati's a massive market for us. Columbus, Michigan, Indiana, as well, and we are actually smack dab in the middle between Michigan and Florida. So when the snowbirds are coming south, they'll stop in Corbin. And then when they're coming back north for the summer, they'll stop in
Oh,
Corbin as well. So we tend to see a lot of people from Florida who vacation in Kentucky.
yeah.
Um, but we do tend to draw more from the northern region.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. So first thing I ask is where are you originally from, or where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, born and raised, graduated from Virginia Commonwealth University with a degree in Parks and Recreation Management. And when I furthered my education, I started at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro in leisure management, and then ended up at EKU and obtained my master's in recreation and park administration.
And when you were at Virginia Commonwealth, is so you got your degree in rec. What kind of other stuff were you involved in at that point as a student, like student clubs or work or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I worked full time and went to school full time, but I was involved in the Student Government Association. I've always had kind of a penchant for local government and the inner workings of government. Um, and, you know, so VCU is a very heavy I guess, commuter college because
Sure.
it's located right in the heart of Richmond. And so, it draws a lot of people from surrounding counties who commute, and kind of a non-traditional student base, especially now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, student government. And then we didn't have a rec club, but, I worked for a professor
Mhm.
on the Virginia Outdoor Survey.
Okay.
So I was kind of an assistant
Yeah.
to one of my professors there. So that was really fun to gain that experience early on in my college education.
And Richmond, Virginia is like what, an hour or so south of DC?
Correct.
Okay. And so was it, and just because I don't know the area too well, I've been to like I've been through North Carolina area, but not so much Virginia. Is that a heavy urban area?
It is,
Okay.
yes. It's kind of a major metropolitan area um, that is kind of the linkage between DC and Richmond, like all of that's pretty metropolitan. So I grew up in the big city,
Yeah.
um, where downtown shopping was very popular, and the nightlife was happening, and lots of great experience surrounding the university.
Very cool. Well, so after you got done with your degree, what was your first job or your first position?
Yeah, so my first, I guess, not full-time position, but my first like recreation related position after university I was a park ranger for the Army Corps of Engineers
Okay.
at the Green River Lake.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, because I had always wanted to be a park ranger. That was my goal, my career goal in life. And so I got on with the Army Corps, and really enjoyed that. I did a lot of interpretive work, as well as patrol,
Hmm.
of the lake and the recreation areas, campgrounds, boat docks, things of that nature.
So
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that was a great opportunity, to learn about federal government and work in the federal government system. And it was actually through that opportunity that I gained my second opportunity and my first real full time job in recreation.
So what did you when you were graduating from VCU? You said you wanted to be a park ranger. Did you look how far, like when you're talking about looking for jobs, how far and wide did you look before you landed on that position that you had applied for?
Well, when I was an undergraduate, I had scoped things out. So, I worked, um, for the municipal recreation system in the county that I lived in as a camp counselor for
Hmm.
a couple years. We my where I grew up, we were actually right outside of a state forest. So I met with the state forest people and the state park people and asked a bunch of questions and, asked about career paths and what kind of experience and degrees I needed
Sure.
to be able to, do those types of jobs. Now, my internship for during my undergrad, I actually, first time leaving home at, 21, I decided that, I was going to go big or stay home. So I moved out to Colorado,
Okay.
um, and I worked for the U.S. Forest Service in the San Juan Mountains, um, and did my internship there, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
Again, working in the federal government, trying to figure out, how is this feasible? Is this something I really want to do? And I came home for the summer and then ended up, launching into grad school. Um, so when I graduated from EKU, I decided, that I kind of wanted to stay in the area.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for opportunities that would allow me, to continue to stay there. So I lived in Berea and I actually drove 100 miles every day. Um, yeah, to the Green
Crazy.
River Lake. It was crazy. Young, young and
Yeah.
dumb.
Good.
But yeah, so I was looking for something that would help me stay in the area, and there was nothing locally available.
Yeah.
Um, and then that position, led me into actually the next position I had. My first full time position was a position that was essentially a brand new position. So I became the year round program coordinator for Camp Kentatton. So
Okay.
I was their very first year round program coordinator, meaning that my job was to bring groups and revenue into the facility during the off season.
Okay.
And Camp Kentatton is a resort camp, that serves economically disadvantaged children, and it like mainly from Canada. So they send the United States children up to Canada camps and the Canadian children down to the US.
Okay. And
So
where was that located again?
that was actually on the Green River Lake
Oh,
in
okay. Okay.
Campbellsville. Yep, in Campbellsville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So
So, after that, what was the next career move for you?
after a year of doing that and driving and and I kind of had to, you explore, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think that it's important to try different things to figure out your place in the recreation field. So after about a year, I was like, yeah, I'm ready for, I don't think that the camp life is my lifestyle.
Sure.
So um, I actually, took some time off and I was still working, to pay my bills. But then the assistant program coordinator position for the city of Richmond came open.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied for that and worked there, helping facilitate programs in the city. So,
Awesome.
and everything from playground inspections to programs and activities to working at the concession stand for the adult softball games. To working with the students at EKU to facilitate some hands-on learning. Um, so yeah, so that was kind of my second full-time gig.
So you went from like 100-mile commute to like a 10-mile commute.
Right. Yeah, it was great. It was so much better. And it was, outside of my camp counselor positions, in university, it was my first municipal recreation job. um, where I worked for city government. So I
Yeah.
went from, federal to nonprofit. So Camp Kenton was a nonprofit organization. So that was learning a whole different, set of rules and processes and procedures and things like that to municipal government.
Yeah. And how long were you there in Richmond?
I was there about a year and 7 months.
Okay. And is that when you transitioned to Berea?
It is.
Okay, so yeah, and Berea for everybody, Berea and Richmond are like 10, 12 miles apart, like 8 to 10 minutes on the highway, depending on what traffic is, right? So
Yeah.
when you moved to Berea professionally, what was it, the position, or was it something else that kind of made you explore that opportunity?
It was definitely the position.
Okay.
Which, I love Berea. I was living in Berea, and Berea's a very like open, eclectic, fun, cultural place.
Sure.
Um, but I just took a chance.
Sure.
It, they were hiring a Parks and Recreation director. And I felt that I had the qualifications and the work ethic, and the connections in terms of working. I had worked in Madison County and had made relationships with, different folks like the health department, the libraries, things like that. And so I just took a chance and went for it. And
Yeah.
honestly, they took a chance on me.
Yeah.
Um, it's I was 27 years old. And that's,
That's young for a director, right?
that is young and it's a lot of responsibility. That park system, um, at the time, of course, Richmond didn't have Paradise Cove. They didn't have a pool. They didn't have, it was mainly like the ballpark and the natural park. Camp Catalpa was still a natural park. And, you know, um, so yeah, Berea, and not only did Berea have a public pool, but they also were in the middle of a park expansion, a 27-acre park expansion. Um, and so I just, I got the position and immediately just went for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So throughout your time there, what are some of the, and first of all, I guess, how long did you work there before your next move? And then what are some key things? We talked about you're being so young and you kind of matured within the position. So how long were you there? And then maybe talk a little bit about some important things you learned along the way within that position.
Yeah. So I was with Berea for about 5 years. I was in that position for about 5 years. Um, and the reason I've been blessed in my lifetime, in my career paths, with opportunities that are like a blank canvas, that are either a newly created position or where, things haven't been developed.
Yeah.
And so Berea was a blank canvas. I mean, yeah, they had the ball fields going and they had, the swimming pool operating. They had a few programs, but it wasn't what I would consider a fully functioning parks department.
Okay.
Um, so, I was able to take that canvas and paint my own picture. Um, I took ownership. I took the responsibility very, very seriously. Um, you know, I think that's when I really started to learn about the importance of policies and procedures, management of people, and the different personalities. Um, as you develop your management or leadership style, um, you start to understand people a little bit better. And with experience, you start to place people in positions where they're going to excel, and where you need them to excel.
Sure. Yeah.
So, um, I learned about the community and what types of programs that they felt like they needed.
Yeah. Like
Um,
more of the needs assessment style stuff.
right, right. And that's just in your day-to-day conversation. I mean, I think that what recreation professionals, especially in a municipal park setting, need to realize is that you're raising the community's children.
Yeah.
At the
Right.
end of the day, you're watching those, you're raising those kids. And you know, I learned so much about mechanics and running equipment and um, human resources and things that you had to be really mindful of, so that you didn't get yourself or the city in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, you
Well,
know,
not even if it's not intentional, you got to be aware, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. You wear so many different hats and you have to know so many different things in a small setting. Like I've always worked in a grassroots setting, with the exception of the position I had right after Berea.
Yeah.
Um, but, it really gave me a lot of insight into the management, policy procedure, um, and really the management of programs and people.
Yeah. And you said you were there for about 5 years.
I was.
Um, and I was right during that time frame that I came to Eastern Kentucky University, and you accepted a different position shortly after I moved there. Um, and am I right? And if I remember right, you moved back closer to home.
I did.
Okay. So, uh, what prompted that, and where did you end up going?
Yeah. So, I've always kind of been an independent person. I'm the youngest, but was raised as an only child. So I've just, followed my dreams and been really independent. So, I left Richmond, Virginia, came to Kentucky, stayed in Kentucky. I was in Madison County, I guess, about a total of 10 years. And my parents are still back in Richmond, and my daddy got sick.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it scared me. It scared me really bad. So I packed up and moved back home to try to, be closer to my family
Yeah.
and take care of my parents. And so while I was there, of course, I was seeking a position in recreation, in parks and recreation, and I landed a position with Prince William County,
Okay.
which is right outside of Washington, D.C. And I was a regional park manager. I was a regional park manager for a park called Locust Shade, which is it's about a mile from Quantico,
Okay.
the base. And so I had several hundred acres of park. And we managed everything from revenue producing facilities such as batting cages, driving range, to picnic shelters, summer camp, and different things like that.
And that was still kind of more, for folks that may not know the county setup and what's that, and that's still more managed like municipal recreation as far as philosophy.
Correct. It is managed like municipal recreation, but this is on so much of a bigger scale.
Yeah.
So I went from a parks department where I was the director and I had, one full-time maintenance person and maybe like three seasonal maintenance people who worked maybe 5 or 6 months out of the year,
Hmm.
to a full-time like administrative assistant, uh, like sports director kind of person, so there were three full-time people, two, 25 lifeguard staff, seven concession staff, to a department where there were literally probably 250 employees just in the parks department.
Yeah.
um a completely different, everything is streamlined. You have a set way that you run everything. It's run, the philosophy of recreation is a little different in that I was a business manager.
Okay.
My job was to bring in the revenue, make sure, that expenditures didn't exceed cost. It wasn't like it was more fee for service and the business management,
Okay.
coming up with the business plan, versus, being in a department where your budget funds are utilized primarily to provide the community with quality of life services.
Okay. And how long were you there altogether?
Oh, let's see, I was with Prince William County about 9 months.
Okay. And then what was your next step after that?
Then I came to Corbin.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
um, you move up there for family reasons, and then after you had some time there, you decided you loved Kentucky enough that you wanted to move back when you had the opportunity.
I did. So my dad got better.
Good news, yeah.
Kentucky was my home. Yeah, dad got better and he knew. He just told me that if I wanted to come back that I should. And um Kentucky was my home at that point. I
Yeah.
had all my friends were here, the people that I had developed relationships with, my career and connections were here. Um, and, I mean, at that point, I was an adult, I was in my early 30s. And I miss Kentucky. And so I got a phone call from a friend of mine who worked for Richmond Tourism,
Hmm.
and she told me that Corbin was looking for their first ever tourism director. And so uh, I knew a few people in Corbin,
Yeah.
namely Marlon Sams,
Yeah.
who's the current city manager. Marlon and I had worked together in recreation. And so I came down for the interview, and actually, I was the way it started. There was a director and like a assistant director, I
Hmm.
guess. But within probably about 6 months, I became the director. So
Okay. And so, Corbin Tourism, you moved down there, knew Marlin, had your network. Did you feel like that was a position that you had, because it's a big tourism is a big transition away from municipal government, I guess is where I'm going. Did you feel like you were really equipped with, your kind of your background with municipal government to handle that? And then kind of maybe you're shifting your focus, but it's not like a dramatic jumping off into the deep end? Or did you feel like it was something really new that had to do a lot of learning on the job?
I definitely had to do some learning on the job. The difference is instead of working for the city manager and the mayor, I work for a board of seven who are appointed by the mayor. I'm not an employee of the city.
Yeah.
Um, I'm an employee of the board. And so I'm a quasi government agency. So I'm an arm or a function of the government. Um, you know, I was familiar with KRS as it pertains to Parks and Recreation. And, I was a big proponent and participator in KRPS. I was actually the region chair for a couple years there while I was in Berea. So, you know, it was a transition in that I had to learn, what laws pertain to tourism, what opportunities existed in tourism. But I felt equipped because, in part, because, government has always been an interest to me. And so no matter what position I've held, I've always looked at the bigger picture of
Sure.
city government, and the inner, network and how all that works. So I'm familiar with government, but then, a lot of recreation. And I think that this is sometimes an area of weakness, especially for maybe people just starting out, but marketing is a huge component of both recreation and, of course, tourism. I mean, it's the main thing we do is marketing. But I knew that I was very familiar with events and programs, and tourism. We do events and programs that are intended to draw people into our city to attend. So I kind of, I felt like it was a new adventure,
Hmm.
and I was excited about the new adventure. And I like to learn. And so I was excited about, having to figure out everything. And not to mention, I mean, it was a brand new mayor that I was working
Yeah.
with, a brand new, commission, a board, so there's a period where you're working to gain trust and to prove yourself, you know, um, and not to mention, I was in the foothills of Appalachia in Berea, but now I'm in Southeast Kentucky, which is a completely different cultural, you
Oh yeah.
know, temperament, I guess. So, from a social standpoint, those kinds of changes too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, and that's where you are now.
Hmm.
Um, Before I go to my next set of questions, what do you think has like been your biggest success where you're at now? Something you're
Yeah.
super
So,
proud of.
yeah, yeah. So the biggest achievement of my life and career happened here in Corbin. So when I moved here and the board hired me, they tasked me with the development of a railroad museum. Corbin is a railroad town. Our history and heritage is deeply ingrained in the L&N Railroad. And so the biggest achievement of my career was moving a 100-year-old steam engine, 550 miles, back to her final resting place in Corbin,
Yeah.
where she operated.
Good
And
grief.
she's the last remaining steam engine in the world to ever be handcrafted by the L&N in South Louisville. Her 400 sisters before her have all been scrapped. So not only is she a artifact that is vital and integral to the history and heritage of our people, we located her in Bainbridge, Georgia, and convinced them to allow us to bring her home.
Yeah. And you keep saying she. Does she have a name now?
We call her the Steam Queen of Corbin,
Steam Queen of
but
Corbin?
she's
Okay.
but her official numbers. So she is LNN 2132.
Okay.
And there is a documentary on YouTube about the great return of 2132 to
Awesome.
Corbin.
And what I'll do is, within the notes of the video or whatnot, wherever people get them, I'll put some links to some of this stuff so they can check it out. Because we've referenced a couple different things. Um, a couple different things that have kind of popped up as we've been talking is, so you talked a little bit about going back and get your master's degree. You started at UNC, and then you continued and finished at Eastern Kentucky. Um, so what do you think the importance of getting a master's degree is for parks and recreation professionals? Like what are the outcomes or the benefits or the importance of that?
Well, I think self development first and foremost. right? So getting my master's was more about self-development and my personal goals and achievement. I think that, anytime that you can continue your education, it's beneficial and important because it's the one thing nobody can ever take from you.
Sure.
And I think that it gives you kind of a leg up on the more experiential components of recreation.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes you, at the end of the day, it makes you more of a viable candidate. I mean, it shows that you made the commitment to go that step further, to obtain, that additional degree. And that can set you apart for sure from some of the other candidates as they apply for their positions.
And what do you, from your time, I guess, within your graduate program, um, beyond that, beyond the professional components, what are some of the personal things that you think were highlights of your life during that time? I guess I don't. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? What are some things that you took away that may not be professional but were important to you personally during that experience?
I think the relationships that I developed, um, on a personal level, uh, I enjoy students, which, I'm an adjunct faculty member, some years at EKU, some years at Union College. I enjoy working with students. And so as a, graduate student, I have the opportunity to work with the undergrads and kind of um, instill some of the things I had learned and be a resource. And, that felt good
Sure.
and also helped me to grow as a person.
Yeah.
I got to have different experiences. Um, I had worked with Dr. Belknap on at the Army Depot. We created like this outdoor recreation trail, and that was um, a great experience. So, you know, I think it just helped me to grow as a person.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the other thing I'd made a note of is you had mentioned KRPS, the Kentucky Recreation and Park Society, and I know you've been involved with them, in various capacities, right? Um, what is your personal philosophy or professional philosophy, or your, what do you, how do you go about being involved with the professional associations and deciding how and when to get involved, I guess.
Yeah, so and of course, in tourism, I am a member of our professional association, the Kentucky Travel Industry Association.
Hmm.
And so I'm very active, in that association. I think that I think it's important to become involved even as a student at the student level so that one, you can network and get to know people, in the industry across the state. And two, so that you can familiarize yourself with what's going on in the industry and what's impacting the industry. I think it's vital as a professional to be part of your association and to participate at whatever level,
Yeah.
whether it's as a member, and to take action when the call comes out that there's a bill on the table. Um, it's important to be in the know about what's going on in your industry because it's going to impact you. Um, like when the Virginia Graham Baker Act came out, and we all had to retrofit pool drains, you know, um, somebody that wasn't staying on top of that would be smacked in the face, you
Right.
know, with this new law that they had no idea that's going to determine whether they get to keep the pool open or
Yeah.
closed.
Right.
So I think I always loved having students at RPS, and I think that's really the way to get involved is, during your formative kind of educational years, and that you carry that with you into your profession, it may very well land you a job, you
Yeah.
know, or give you the ability that when you do, get a position that who to call when you have a question. Um, that's the great thing about tourism and recreation is that we work together. If we don't know something, we just pick up the phone and ask, hey, I'm dealing with this. Have you dealt with this? Will you share this with me? It's just a great resource.
Or you can, you can say, "Hey, I'm doing a professional interview series. Can I con you into doing
Yeah.
this?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And of course, we rise to the task because it's all about, working together.
Yeah. So Maggie, before a couple of things before I let you, like, if money wasn't an object, if you could do anything you wanted, along those lines, what would be your dream job?
Honestly, my dream job is to be a city manager.
Okay.
Yeah, my goal is to manage a city. I love municipal government because of the grassroots level and grassroots impact. Um, and I enjoy, working with people, and I'm a visionary.
Yeah.
So, I have vision for the bigger picture and want to get everybody on my bus to drive towards that vision and make it happen.
That's it's coming full circle because you mentioned SGA in college, and then you municipal, nonprofit, and now tourism. So you're kind of filling out the resume to maybe do that, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So before I let you go, the last thing I have is, for young professionals or students that may be watching this and thinking about, you know, uh, your career path, what you've done, um, whether they're saying, I think that may be something I'm interested in, or I'd like to know for more information, or whatever it may be, they're kind of interested in, Maggie's career path. What overall, and because you've had a variety of experiences, right? What are some pieces of advice or some wisdom that you would share with folks as they start to look at that future of theirs?
Yeah. So, probably my first piece of advice is to explore. Utilize those internship opportunities, utilize those lower rec level um, volunteer, opportunities to put yourself out there and experience so that you can get an idea of what you like versus what you don't like. My first volunteer experience for a recreation class, I worked with a programmer in a nursing home and realized this is not my setting. These patrons are super nice and I really, adore them,
Yeah,
but this is, not what I want to do. Um, you know, whether it's PR or, get out there and experience, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to try. I think, leading by example is extremely important, and um, find a mentor
yeah,
who
absolutely.
really inspires you and someone that you want to aspire to be, that you respect, and align yourself with that mentor, so that you can learn. The city manager of Berea was my mentor, and I learned a lot about government and a lot about different things through that mentor.
Sure.
Um, and these aren't the highest paid positions ever. It's getting better, but it's not about the money. It's
Yeah,
not about the money. Recreation is about passion, and it's about loving what you do, whether you're serving a hot dog, putting a band aid on a kid's knee, cleaning a toilet, you're going to do it all.
yep,
And as far as advice goes, get as much experience as you can because you're going to wear several different hats.
sure.
And you never know. You could be, at the governor's dinner, for example, making a presentation to consoling a 4-year-old, that can't hit the ball in wee ball. You have to be flexible.
Yeah. Well, Maggie, thank you so much. Maggy Kriebel, Director of Tourism for Corbin, Kentucky. Um, as always, it's been awesome to talk to you. Learn a few things about you I didn't know. And one thing I was going to say is, you know, I know Kentucky missed you while you were gone, and I think a lot of them are all of them are glad you're back. And bring that spirit and passion that you talk about back to the area. Um, a friend of ours, a mutual friend, John McChesney, when you returned back to Kentucky, he made an announcement via email. So I mean, if that says anything about the impact Maggie has, right? So anyway, as always, thank you again. And if and as always, if you need anything from me, definitely reach out. At this point, I guess I owe you one or two. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, Maggie.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.